All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to be making new kinds of enemies today, a variety of enemies. So, as we have it right now, we have one blue enemy that is spawned in this game. The way I have it programmed, they're pretty much immortal. I don't know if I can actually kill them because they have so many hit points. They spawn on the same place. So it's actually kind of a twofold problem we're going to solve. In this video, we're just going to make different kinds of enemies. So a variety of classes of enemies that will, some will be fast enemies, some will be have special behaviors, and so on. Because eventually you want to have a game full of a variety of different types of things to fight against. And then the second problem to solve, which we'll do in the next video, is how do we create a sequence of enemies, a level essentially. So you have waves of enemies come out and that sort of thing. So that's what we're doing. So we'll start off with making new kinds of enemies. The idea is that we're going to make a new class. I'm going to stack them all inside of this tab, though you've seen how our tab space is getting pretty tight in terms of the names and such. So in addition to the enemy class, we're going to make a couple of different classes. I'm going to make a class fast enemy, for example. And the story here is that fast enemy is not going to extend game object, it's going to extend enemy, which is a novel thing. Interestingly enough, if you extend enemy, and enemy extends game object, then fast enemy is also a game object and can be added to the objects list just like everything else. So this is just a more specialized version of enemy. It's going to have everything that enemies have. It'll have all the stuff game objects have, and we can even add on more stuff if we want to. So we're going to make a fast enemy. The idea is that this enemy will move quickly. It will zip down the screen and, hopefully become a thing that we have to dodge out of the way of, kind of thing. So we're going to make a constructor for fast enemy. And I'm going to have it take an x and a y from some external source. But I am going to choose what the Vx is going to be. It's always going to be the same. And this is sort of a generic enemy that can be told what its speed is and so on. So that's great, but I'm going to actually hardcode that in. So the way I'm going to do that is by calling the enemy constructor. So the fast enemy constructor can make use of the enemy constructor. So I can call the enemy constructor and give it sort of these four numbers, and it'll work out great. Watch this. How do you call the enemy constructor? It's with something called the super keyword. So the super keyword, you're going to send it underscore x and underscore y, because that's going to be the x and y. The x and y of the enemy. And then for vx and vy, you can just choose numbers. Like I can choose 15, for example. That's going to be the vy. That'll be the vx. And so this will be a particularly fast spaceship. These are super fast. It'll also get all these other properties, like alive is true, HP 10, width and height is 25, and so on. But I can override these if I want to. So when I call super this, I'm basically calling the enemy constructor, and all these things happen. But hey, maybe I want HP to not be 10. Maybe I want it to be 1. So I can just put it on the end to overrule anything in the superclasses constructor, anything in the enemy constructor that I don't agree with. I can also change the width and the height and anything else that I want. So that's fine. So super is for calling enemies constructor, whatever it is that you extended. So there we go. Fast enemy. Show function I'm going to change as well. Which show will change. I'll just make it a different color just so we can see it's a different enemy. So I'll fill with 255, 0, 255. And then rect x, y, width, height. All right, so I'll run that. Oh, I guess I already made a fast enemy tab here. Sorry, let's delete that. I don't want that one. Delete. So sorry about that. So basically, try again, and here we go. Oh yeah, actually nothing's really going to change here. Even though we made this wonderful little class of fast enemies, we're still adding regular enemies to the world. So we would also have to change our playing tab. So go over to playing. Here we are in void playing. And we're going to stop adding enemies. We'll try adding fast enemies for a while here. So fast enemies, we'll see what that looks like. So fast enemy. Oh yeah, and fast enemies, we don't need to send them a Vx and Vy. That's already calculated for us. It just takes 2 parameters. So just give it an X and a Y. So we'll run that now. And sure enough, we'll have fast enemies flying in our way. Phew! They're purple and they're a little bit different. And notice they only have 1 hit point. I can actually kill these ones, which is refreshing since the other ones were pretty much immortal. I can still add good old-fashioned boring enemies, the generic enemy if I wanted to. I can add another if statement where I say objects.add new enemy. So I've just added a new option of enemies to add. So right now in this video we're just going to focus on how do we extend enemy and make a variety of enemy types. The next video we'll talk about putting groups of enemies together and having some fun with that. So we'll do one more type of enemy. This will be a more elaborate. I'd like to make an enemy that has much different behavior. Maybe it'll be an enemy that shoots bullets, and we'll also make an enemy that moves slowly down the screen. And when it gets to a certain point in the screen, we'll start adding bullets. So before we go any further, a really important change we're going to make is that right now our enemies are all allergic to all bullets. Check it out. We're just looking for instance of bullets, and then we're checking to see if it's close to us. So we only want to, if we're going to add bullets from this enemy, then we got to make sure we don't die from our own bullets. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the bullets that will make us no longer alive are good bullets. So I want to check to see if b.good is true and the distance is close. If they're not good bullets, we don't want to die from them. So this collision code, this is in the enemy class in void act. We just got to make sure that we make this change. Okay, that's basically it. Let's go and make a class gunship. This will also extend enemy. And in the gunship, I guess the constructor will also take an X and a Y. And we're going to basically do something similar here. We're going to give it an X and a Y. We'll also choose a Vx and Vy. I'll choose a nice slow number like 2. It'll slowly come down the screen. And its HP for the gunship will be something like 20. It'll be a bigger number. It'll be slower, and they will be heartier spaceships. The show function I'll also override, mostly just so that I can put some different color in here so you can see. Red and green, maybe? Blue? So there'll be a different color. And actually, maybe I'll also add, make it a little bit fatter too. I'll make a width of 50 and a height of 50. So some big chunky spaceship that moves slow and it'll shoot bullets. So this is fine. The gunship is a reasonable change, and I can go and change my playing function so we're adding in gunships instead of fast enemies. And here's our gunships. They'll be coming in probably too fast. It'll be hard to kill them all. Or kill, yeah, got one of them. But it'll be hard to kill them. So basically, it's successful. It's been added in. But the behavior actually I want is that I want them to stop halfway down the screen, and I want them to start shooting bullets. So that means I'm going to have to change the act function. I still want all this good stuff. This is all very good stuff, but I want to override it. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste it. I'm going to grab this act function. I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to just make some changes. And so for a gunship, it's only going to move for the first half of the screen. So if y is less than height divided by 2, then it will move. Otherwise, it's going to stop when it gets to halfway down the screen. So if it's greater than that, then it won't do this code anymore. And that means it's never going to die, so this is not really relevant anymore. I think I'll delete it. It just won't get to the bottom of the screen if it stops halfway down. This collision code is still good, and I'll leave it in there, but I do want it to do something else. I want it to shoot bullets. So what I can do is I can, wherever you want really, I'll put it here for convenience sake, but wherever you'd like to put it, I'll make it shoot a bullet by saying objects.add new bullet. And I'll send it all the parameters to make it an evil bullet. So first it's going to come out of the gunship's X and Y, and then its Vx and Vy of the bullet, I'll make it random. and I'll make it a bad bullet, which is false. So these are all the parameters I'm sending to make it the kind of bullet that I want it to be. Okay, so we've added this additional piece of code, we've added additional decision-making behavior, and I guess just to make sure we're not overwhelmed, I'm going to go over and kind of change the way we're spawning these as well. I'm going to do it every 500 frames. I'll add a new gunship. So let's run it and see what happens. So first 500 frames will be no spaceship. So I'm just waiting for it to come along. And here it comes. Oh, it's shooting. Whole way down. So I'm going to have to dodge these bullets. Of course, I haven't made my spaceship possibly get injured by bullets. So that's, I don't really need to be dodging. So it looks like I'm able to kill them as they come down. I think it might be more fun if they didn't shoot as they came down. So what I'll do instead I'll make this an if-else. So I'll make them move if they're at the top part of the screen, and I'll make them shoot if they get to the middle of the screen. So now, as they're coming down the screen, they're not really firing, they're sort of setting themselves up, which gives them a moment of vulnerability for me to take care of them. So here they come down the screen, and then they'll stop, and then they'll start shooting. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing for making different kinds of enemies. And I encourage you to make your own different types of enemies. So if you'd like to think of different interesting enemy types to make, that would be great. Think about what other interesting enemies there'll be, and we can design some more. In the next video, we'll take a look at how we can organize a variety of enemies into a level using something called a launcher. Okay, thanks everybody.